Well, hello everybody. This is David Tal. This is the Balagan Connection, and we're about 3 weeks after the terrible event, and this is going to be a little bit of an update about what's going on and a couple of things. Today, I want to talk about what's happened in these 3 weeks, and maybe a little bit about what's not happened in the 3 weeks, and if we have enough time to get into what's changed and what is profoundly changed. So let's start off with what happened. We all know about the attack, but what we're getting from the 7th of October attack is the brutality. We're seeing more and more evidence to the down-route brutality. We found recordings of the terrorists calling their parents in Gaza on the phones of the people that they killed, saying, "Mama, Daddy, I just now killed 10 Jews." By the way, they said 10 Jews, not 10 Israelis. And look at me, I'm so great. And the father saying, "Wonderful, son, we really like what you're doing." So we're getting that. We're connecting to the horror of what happened. And on the other hand, we're hearing praise. Praise for these terrorists, praise for these martyrs, praise for this jailbreak, praise for these oppressed people. And what's even more concerning for us is the denial. No, it didn't happen. The Jews are smart. They put an AI together, and all of this is just pictures. And more, we're hearing more and more people denying, because the world, especially the progressive world, who thought that these were the freedom fighters and these were can't wrap their heads around the brutality and the terror of what they're doing. And we've moved into a very interesting dynamic of who is the victim. And the world is now separating, just like the Red Sea, okay, about, are the Jews the victims or are the Palestinians the victims? And you can know exactly who people are depending on who they victimize. And there's this interesting kind of polarization, for lack of a better word, that's going on right now, that's going to play an interesting role both in your society, and it's going to play an interesting role in your elections, and we're going to see that as we go along. In the meantime, Israel is bombing, and I'm going to say this again, is bombing military targets in Gaza. We know that there's going to be a land excursion, and we know that there's going to be a war going on, and Israel is preparing for that. So that has been going on today. We're getting information from the terrorists that we have. We have about 100 of the perpetrators of this brutality in Israeli custody, and they're giving us intelligence. We've got information that we're bringing in. So in preparation for a ground excursion into Gaza, we are starting to take out the targets. But another thing that's happening, and we're talking, that the world is talking about a lot more, is the humanitarian crisis. Because a lot of the people living in the northern part of Gaza have moved to the southern part of Gaza to get away. By the way, Hamas has actually literally shot people for moving out of their homes in the war zone in order to get away from this. But the humanitarian crisis is becoming more and more of an issue. And more of the dynamics on the internet is, oh, those poor Palestinians, they're in the middle of a humanitarian crisis, we have to solve it. I'm going to tell you truthfully, maybe Israel doesn't really feel very much about that right now, but Israel is willing for a solution to the humanitarian crisis on the southern part of the Gaza Strip. But again, nobody is saying that. So that's more or less what happened. Let's talk about what's not happened. And the most glaring thing that's not happening is the ground offensive. Israel has not gone in to take out Hamas. We pulled up the men, we've trained them, we've brought the forces to the edge of the Gaza Strip, but Israel has not gone in yet, and everybody's asking why not. Most of us believe, and I think you will get this from different places in the internet also, is that the United States is holding Israel back because the United States wants to do some kind of negotiation that combines the humanitarian crisis with the Israeli hostages. And from what we're hearing, the stress is on the hostages that have either American or other European citizenship. Like we're going to separate the Jews again. We're going to say these ones are Israelis and these ones are Americans, so we're going to take care of them and not take care of them. But there is a feeling that there is something holding the United States back in order to do something about the hostages. There's talk about a hostage negotiation going on right now. And so And as of now, the ground offensive hasn't started up. The second thing that has not happened is the war in the north. Everybody, and from the beginning of this, we thought that there was going to be a big war in the north, the Hezbollah in Iran, and that has now not happened. That has not happened probably for two main reasons. Reason number one, Israel moved major amounts of forces, including people that I know, up into the north to get prepared for this. And reason number two is that the United States of America moved an aircraft carrier not far from the borders of Lebanon and actually said to the Hezbollah in Iran, stand down. And as of now, they have not decided. Now, don't get me wrong. There's rockets coming on the border. There's attacks, but not the all-out war that we see. And the third thing that's not happened is the world is not really talking about this total, undeniable connection between Iran and what happened in Gaza. Iran is the main perpetrator of this. And one of the things I'm going to use to tie what happened and what not happened is the hostages. 220 Israeli hostages. Some of them as young as 8 months old. Some of them as old as 80 years old are in the hands of the Hamas in the middle of this situation. Okay, this has happened. What is not happening is the world is not screaming about those hostages. If a Mexican drug lord crossed over the border into El Paso or into Texas and took 200 people, American citizens, into Mexico and is holding them in basements in Mexico, the United States of America would be all over the world. The world would be all over it. I don't hear enough noise about 220 civilians that have been taken hostage in this situation. That says a lot to us. And the last thing I want to tie together today, because one of the things that's happened in the last 3 weeks is a major shift or a major change on our side. And let's talk about our side before I talk about your side. The first thing is the our side and your side. There's a difference. We totally believe that the world does not understand what we've gone through. The United States of America, people sitting in Europe, people sitting around the world, they don't understand us. They don't understand the horror of having somebody come into your house, take your wife, kill your children, and steal your grandma. It doesn't, I don't think the world has a feeling for that. And we've got this growing feeling among us that this is, nobody's going to really understand us. And I think this is something that we need to pray about and connect to. One of the differences is a lot of basic concepts have changed for us here. The first concept is a concept of peace. We had people who thought it was going to be, I was a leftist, if you want to put that. I thought we could reach peace with the Palestinians. I thought we could reach peace with these people. They're pragmatic enough. They're understanding enough. They're reasonable enough. That's dead. Most Israelis have killed the peace on what happened in the 7th of October. We now know who the enemy is. We thought we could get along, but no. The hatred, and I'm going to say something that most Americans don't understand. And again, I know I'm speaking to mostly Christian population, Christian audience. The evil that was perpetrated on the 7th of October is something that we were surprised about. I thought there was no evil like this in the world. And I'm sure that a lot of people sitting over there don't really understand the deepness of that evil. And it's time to wake up to the fact that in a world where there is a God and there's a lack of God, there is right and there is downright undescribable evil. And I think that is something that we've realized very, very deeply. Another concept that we've lost is strength. We're not as strong as we thought we were. We were not as sure as we thought we were. We were not as smart as we thought we were. Everything, that's shifted everything. And just like a person can, the whole country is going through PTSD. And that we have to be very, very careful not to sink into despair, because that kind of takes us into despair. We lost trust. We've lost the strength. We lost the feeling that the army is strong enough. We've lost our leadership, and that's part of what's going on. But the last thing, and I think the most important thing that I want to convey today, is that we have lost the trust in everything else. And I'm watching how quickly the world shifted from poor Israelis get raped and beaten by the Hamas to Israel is the perpetrator. It's terrible what happened, but there's a context. It's terrible what happened, but don't kill other people. It's terrible what happened, but don't deny us. And we have lost trust in the fact that the world even accepts or understands who we are. And let me go back to, we are also Israelis, but those people that crossed over Gaza into this side were not coming only to kill Israelis, they were coming to kill Jews. And Jew killing is something that we know deeply about. Jew killing is something that we've got in our DNA. And again, we thought that was over. We thought we could trust the modern Western world. We were wrong. And when we hear people justifying this and saying this is something that is acceptable, if you in the Western world can accept and justify this, that means we cannot trust you anymore. And if I add on the fact that all of this has been instigated and orchestrated by Iran, and I add on to the fact that the United States administration, starting with Obama and now with Biden, has been appeasing Iran and trying to find and hasn't really realized what they were planning and what they wanted to do, and accepted Iran's meddling and has not put Iran in its place, we don't trust you anymore. We don't trust you to have our backs. We don't trust you to be the reasonable. And I think this is a major shift. Now, why am I saying this here? Because the Balagan Connection is mostly connected to a Christian audience. And if a Christian audience is a church-going audience, you use this. And if you use this, you know who we are. You know what we are. We're not always right. We're not always good. But we're God's chosen people. And we've gone up and we've gone down. But God has said again and again, I will not desert my people. So if you read this and you understand what we're going through, it's time to stand up. And I'm going to read a passage from Ezekiel that connects to this. And I want you to pay close attention to this because, again, I've used this before and other people have used this before. But this is Ezekiel 22, verse 30. And it says this: I sought out a man among them who would make a wall and stand in the gap before me on behalf of the land, that I should not destroy it. But I found no one. Therefore I poured out my wrath on them, and I have consumed them with fire and my wrath, and I have recompensated their deeds on their heads. We were destroyed at least once because there was nobody to stand in that gap. I know I'm talking to people who do stand in that gap. But we need your help. We need your support. We need your prayer. We need your political support. We need your financial support. But more than everything, we need your spiritual support. This is now time for people who take this Bible seriously to stand in the gap and to make a difference. So that was an update of what's going on. This is David Tal. This is the Balagan Connection. Please like, subscribe, send this out to your friends, and we will be kind of coming back soon to connect. Thank you very much.